Now, a success of Five Nights at Freddy in multiple spin-offs, sequels, he also attempted to be ripoffs like Benzie and many others before it. They actually created something so unique and different. Even that they attempted to make it in a movie that people who watched it, I didn't, that people says it left a lot of things on the table. It wasn't fully committed to be horror gory. Even that they're the one who sort of set the standard of mascot horror. If you don't know what that is, mascot horror is basically by definition sort of show you something childish or something child friendly, like a teddy bear or anything like it. Twisted of something sort of horrific, making it sort of a mascot horror. Someone sort of a basically a pizza place or a basically a carnival, making sort of something sweet and adorable, making super horrific. But usually nothing really happens. It's just sort of the lore itself. The lore kind of makes the whatever horror franchise or mascot horror successful and interesting, but every time they adapt it to sort of something else, it leaves a lot of things in desire. Like something like FNaF that has potential to be great, but the only problem is it's just sort of hard to make something of a jump scares while actually thinking about something lore. This is what a lot of people sort of complains of the live action FNaF, that didn't fully work only if you know the franchise. In fact, the closest one who actually make this actually interesting and fun is the fact that a cheesy over top gory ripoff from Nicolas Cage, who actually made it work for a little bit. It did not blow up, but yet it's a sort of a fun ride. Supposedly, if you like FNaF and you want that extra kick, something actually truly gory, it's the only thing they actually grab your attention and almost completely sell it. But at the same time, it does show you the flaws of sort of mascot horror, because it's sort of limited of location, that it's sort of hard to improvise that to actually work. That's why the video game, the sort of stealth game of Last FNaF, sort of big kind of pizza place, playground, is sort of hard to even enjoy because how limited spaces it actually has to actually elevate it. And this is sort of one of the biggest issues. But to be fair, the only way to actually work completely, including taking the lore, the jump scare, everything feels right, if they decide to make it an animated series or animated movie. This is the only way to actually fully explore the third mascot horror, the well made words, because it's the only way to do it, because you quite literally are not restricted of the life action of it, like locations, the actors, the written. You can easily do not see the sort of plot holes, because the limit is your imagination how to use this fully. Believe it or not, there is another project before I forget, I do apologize, is that basically Benzie supposedly want to do an animated movie. So if that movie finally come out, this sort of became outdated, so I do apologize. Just a FYI. In fact, I only find one short online that is sort of brand new called Pretty Kitty, who completely delivers the mascot horror, but give you so much things to actually finish watching it, to actually use your imagination, wondering this could make a movie or a TV series work, because how free it really feels. It's all about how strong your imagination really is when you actually finish it watching, especially the twist. Before I break it down why I'm so obsessed with Pretty Kitty, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, to reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, or sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going and like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. If you do, thank you. Because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like comment, and share. Thank you. Now let's break down of this sort of new animated short called A Pretty Kitty. Now let's get started. Now I can tell you who created it because it just sort of states of only 9 people made this short to put it in the festival. Only got awarded for 30 awards, only won 9. But these 9 animators actually make this glorious 3-minute short, beautiful, horrific, very deep, and that sick twisted twist by using different animated sort of side projects to mix with it, because it does have different styles. You have puppetry, CGI, 2D, and etc. But they use this sort of the mentality of the main lead character, who is sort of hired to play Pretty Kitty. And this is the thing, it just grabs your attention because Pretty Kitty of this short of the world they created is basically this sort of kind of fun sort of amusement park of this mainly mascot called Pretty Kitty. But the only problem is the music park got in trouble because it sort of murked one of their sort of casual people who were actually having fun in the music park. But the only problem is we don't know this person was a child or adult. They sort of made it vague. Because of this, the music park got sued by the family and now they had to shut down. Now we follow a character called Casey, who actually is a little bit upset because the music park was sort of shutting down, and trying to take his costume finally out and put in the closet and walk away. But the only interesting thing about it is the fact, little by little, you see him losing his mind. When he put the costume down, he sees the mascot of Pretty Kitty to convince him to continue the sort of a music park to actually keep playing Pretty Kitty. It's sort of obvious you don't know is actually the character imagining it or actually is Pretty Kitty himself reappearing, almost this sort of cosmic horror to convince him to do maybe horrific acts, especially what happened at the end. I will explain in the end of this video. But interesting enough, Casey, our main lead character, is not fully convinced. He attempted to communicate and disargued with the mascot, saying we shutting down of little issues here or there, like their murder, or better yet, the sort of incident of one of the roller coaster ride who does not work, who actually had more problems if they put it okay to use. But once again, Pretty Kitty still convinced him to do this. Keep putting on the costume is who you are. And this is sort of the interesting argument, because in between this you have multiple different styles to see sort of the mental state or mainly character Casey, because you see him trying to reason with this character, telling you this is pointless, why follow? The 10-year anniversary of Pretty Kitty sort of theme park is ended, but it also tells you this 10 years was basically his whole life. He is Pretty Kitty. Why give it up? That is your personality. But he still argues too. He couldn't get convinced that he is Pretty Kitty. The point is, he's trying to sew the costume together, but he's looking at his skin, it says, no, I am Pretty Kitty. In fact, in the short video, you see him ripping his own skin come out of becoming the mascot Pretty Kitty, but almost sort of a gory but creative way that is just sort of shocking. But you think that's the twist that actually sold you. It's actually not. It's the fact at the very beginning, he was calling his lawyer to see everything settled so he could basically dump his costume and go to sleep to work a different job next. But this is the thing. He did come back for that specific job, but not looking as the same person. And end up this sort of twist, fusing his own skin with the costume because of this sort of maybe mysterious godly mascot who convinced him to do it, Or it's just his mentality sort of breaking down, convincing himself to fuse with the costume because he's not letting go. Even that part of him is still there, maybe with pain, asking him to actually ask help from other people. Because at the very end, it is a disturbing twist. You do see it, but with the shadows a little bit, so it's not be demonetized. But it's sort of that twist fully convince you this could be a full animated movie or animated series, because they built the lore pretty well, pretty fast, and you understand Casey himself. His whole life, it is Pretty Kitty. You could make this sort of an anthology of many different kids telling stories about Pretty Kitty, what happened to the park, and the person who put in the costume, who loses his mind and sold his soul with his own hands with the costume, looking half dead, half alive. That itself could be an interesting sort of kind of mascot horror, because you could tell a sort of different point of view of different kids, maybe hearing the story, but how people pass on the story kid to kid. The story changes or become bigger, depends of the location of the story. That itself could be very interesting, because you set up everything is here. Or even that you could actually go something like a animated movie if they got picked up, because let's face it, an animated movie could make it something very interesting. Could be like FNaF, the original movie of, oh, something horrific is there, but you realize Casey's not truly a monster, but he only want to murk adults because he's shut down his own playground now words. Because if you see the short, the guy likes to play Pretty Kitty. In fact, people see him being there. They see Pretty Kitty. He see himself being alive. And that itself could be a very good point why Casey does not murk other kids, because he likes kids. He's the one who sees him who he really is. Even that he's sort of very broken and disturbed, but he will not touch them. But he will touch adults because they're the one who condemned him. And that could be a very interesting thing to make a movie. A bunch of kids basically just traveling in the park, see him run away, but they keep telling the story of Casey become Pretty Kitty, but you don't know is it real or not. You could see different ways to pull this off, because let's face it, this short is amazing. It delivers on the horror lore and the reasoning of the main lead character becoming Pretty Kitty. Very simple, very short, straight to the point. Even that this short shows you can do a mascot horror with gore. Just be a little creative. In fact, the only mascot horror I could feel could pull this off like Pretty Kitty is basically Benji, because I said at the very beginning they actually are making a movie, an animated movie of Benji, if they decide to continue that idea, if they're not shut down or have released doing this recording. Because it's the only way to make a gore, a PG-13 gore, is be very creative or change the blood as to sort of oil or something like that. And Pretty Kitty can actually do that, just making less blood to make it sort of flowery, or maybe cotton look like blood, something like that, because you could play with sort of the art style, and that's sort of the freedom. It's all about what trying to say, what I'm showing, but give the meaning, action, meaning, powerful phrases of this sort of kind of Wonderland sort of situation to make it work. But once again, it's something I highly recommend to watch. It's not that long, it's on YouTube, and you see it. You can see why is this possibility, why people little by little started being obsessed with Pretty Kitty. He has so much potential, especially the animation. You go different art styles telling stories of Pretty Kitty or the whole movie, but you also use the different art styles to see Casey sort of loses his mind. What do he sees? The horrific things he does, but we don't see it. It's sort of the creativity of Casey's mind showing his perspective. That itself can sell the whole movie and yet still keep it as PG-13 because FNaF's original first movie and possibly the second movie, one of the biggest weaknesses is sort of short gore and horror, and sort of hard to do that because you're trying to sell to little kids, but little kids can handle it if you just need to be creative and imaginative. In fact, people describe FNaF, the live action movie, they're trying to be something like kind of like the Goonies-ish or something like that, but sort of misunderstand how to do a gore, or not misunderstand, struggle to implement being creative, because at the very end, the weakness of FNaF or any Mascot horror is sort of the gore factor. Keep it PG-13. You have to be very creative. How creative? Watch the first 2 episodes of Samurai Jack. A guy who is a samurai cutting off robots, and it feels like you're watching a gore fest, but only with robot guts and oil. And this is the reason why that show got away with a lot of gore, because everything is made out of robot and oil. So that's a fun way to do it. But unfortunately, that's sort of the main problem to it, that you figure out how to make it work. FNaF finally realized it, or barely beat it to it to make it sort of kind of oily gore now works. Or who knows, this sort of mini pilot of Pretty Kitty who actually got picked up and fully make that sort of gorish, over the top, creative sort of Mascot horror, show them how to actually do it. But once more, that's all I can say about this short. Now you, have you seen it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Tell me down below. Let me know. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.